Welcome back to another episode of Excuse My Grandma. It's Kim and my co-host,
Grandma Gail.
Okay, Grandma, we took a week off from the pod. We've been very busy. What's new with you?
What's new? I'm recuperating from all these jobs we've been doing, and we've been having an adventure. Last week we went to Jersey City for a job, and I have to tell you, I fell in love with it. First of all,
Oh, I didn't know this.
Oh, I
Well,
did.
by the way, for those who don't know, it was for It Cosmetics, which is doing a campaign for a product we're not allowed to say yet that's coming out next year, but we were shooting it for them. They asked us to essentially model and create content to show our two different skin types and how the product's going to work.
And it was so much fun, and the people who did it were fabulous. I mean, it's some difference the way we put on a production and the way they put on a production. It was really great. But what I was going to say was, from your apartment down, in the 20s, to go through the Holland Tunnel and to get to Jersey City takes 15 minutes. It's a breeze. I mean, not in commuter traffic.
But even in commuter traffic, because we went home around
that's true.
6 p.m.
It still only took a half hour.
Yeah, it was I come uptown every day to work with you, and that takes a half an hour.
And the buildings are beautiful. I mean, everything is new along the waterfront. They really did a gorgeous job. And then the lady who was doing our hair said that actually there's a whole area where they have townhouses. So it's a terrific place for singles or for young families to get a beautiful place for much less money than Manhattan and probably much less than Brooklyn. So shout out to Jersey City. I thought it was great. I think I'm going to become the mayor of Jersey City.
Yeah,
I really liked it a lot.
Yeah, well, we didn't fully explore, but
no, it was a rainy.
Yeah.
As this whole week has been, the weather has been awful. I actually wanted to walk along the pier, and we didn't do that. But
did you
another time.
doing a 10-hour shoot?
Well, they made it very pleasant.
Yeah.
And thank heavens we weren't wearing heels.
Yeah,
Anybody
true.
who ever has to do I don't know how people in the workplace, I now know why everybody takes sneakers with them, because you can't stand. We were standing most of the 10 hours. You can't
Right.
stand on with heels on. So we had flats, and you were wearing sneakers because really the shots they were taking were from the waist down.
The waist up.
The waist up.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Excuse me. The waist up.
No, there was just
the waist down would have been so sad.
that would have been a different campaign.
Exactly. We're going to have one of those. But anyway, it was very interesting. They do when they're taking pictures, they've got 10 people with lights and people adjusting your outfits.
Yeah.
It was
if you
really
move an
experience.
inch, there'd be
my
10
gosh.
people to come and fix your hair and spray you and
What
fix your
about the
makeup.
guy who was drawing the things on the floor? We had to keep our feet in a
just
certain
where to
place
stand
all the
and
time.
things like that. But I thought we were easy to work with
We
and
were.
very professional. I mean, you and the makeup people definitely are this is the way I like it.
Yeah, but they didn't do it the way I like.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
So we did that on Friday,
Yes.
and then I went out on, which is terrific. I haven't taken this in a long time. I took the Ambassador bus out to the Hamptons because I went out. I had something Saturday night out there, and it was terrific. I picked it up in my area. The hardest thing was getting out of the city because they have a lot of stops.
Right.
But once you leave 39th Street and go through the Midtown Tunnel, it's a breeze. And maybe it was because it was a Saturday. There was no traffic on the Long Island Expressway, which is like a miracle. And it was a pleasure. They give you a little snack. I mean, I didn't have anything to drink because then I would have a problem. But people were having coffee. They were having tea.
Yeah. Do you prefer, though, to drive out to the Hamptons?
No, actually, I prefer this.
Oh.
I like this much more because you're in a big bus and it's very comfortable, and I don't have to, worry about Poppy's driving to the left or the right.
Yeah,
and
true.
And he's ducking in and
backseat
out
driving
of
the
cars.
whole
Exactly.
time.
So, no, I actually liked it a lot, and I'm going to do it several times over the summer because there are so many stops that they make. And from East Hampton, I think there are a couple of buses that go right into the city. And then I think I'll get out at the first stop in the city and figure out how to get home from there. Because it's really the stopping in the city to pick up different people and let off different people that slows the trip down. But terrific experience. My friend picked me up on the other end, but there were taxis there waiting to take people right away. Very easy way of going someplace. I find now anything that makes your trip easier is something everybody has to do because traveling itself is very stressful.
I stayed in the city this weekend, which, there were definitely a lot of people around. But on days like that or weekends when you're like home and not, since I'm always with my family, I definitely felt like more lonely than usual because it's just hanging out in your apartment and kind of doing everything on your own time.
Well, I think you've grown up. I think it's time to hang out on your own a little bit. I don't think.
Yeah,
I don't think that that should be a problem. I think you didn't fill your time with interesting enough things, perhaps because of the weather. I mean,
Yeah, maybe it was that, and like I had to be more proactive about planning. Well, also, so Pride was on Sunday.
well, that was
And
2 million
that really
people.
was hard to get around New York. Like I
Right.
didn't realize because I'm usually not here for Pride, and I was actually supposed to go support my friend at her brunch, but it was taking like over an hour to get to her, so I couldn't even make it on time.
I think you have to figure these things out. You've got to figure it's going to take a half a day to get anywhere. When
Well,
they
all
have
the
these kind
streets
of
are closed.
Exactly. They have closures because they had, I think they said they were having close to 2 million people, spectators,
It was
marching within
I
it.
had never seen that many people on the
Oh, it's
streets, which is
wonderful.
great. But
Wonderful.
it was definitely like I don't know how anyone got anywhere unless you were doing Pride things.
Right. All right. Well, yesterday was dedicated to that, but I must say, coming home from the Hamptons to New York, we had no traffic.
What about the upcoming July 4th? Yeah, it hasn't felt like summer yet. I'm hoping the 4th will. I have a friend staying with me. I feel like
That's always fun.
hopefully we'll do some Montauk things and it'll be a fun weekend.
Well,
It's
I
always
think
a
the weather's-
lot,
I
though.
think it's always a lot.
Yeah, like I'm always like exhausted by the end. Like I need a vacation. I'll let you guys know how it goes and be posting and stuff. Maybe you can help me pick out some outfits if I have parties.
Okay. Well, at least you have parties.
Well, I don't right now, but I'm
Maybe
hoping.
It's a spur of the minute party.
Yeah, like you hear of something going on, you go.
Okay.
Like very rarely. I wish it was like how when you're older, where
Have organized
you
days,
you know what you're doing 6
months
months
in
out.
advance.
Yeah.
Well, no, a month in advance. If you don't book people up at early, they're busy. I mean, people are double booking.
Yeah, I mean, I wish my calendar was like that. For me, it's like, do I know if I'm free tonight yet? I don't even know because like something could come up.
All right.
And
Okay, well, that's why being young is being flexible. Being old is being
I don't know if
rigid.
I'm flexible, but yeah. Okay, let's answer some dating questions that people wrote in, and then go into a larger dating topic. Okay, so listener questions. Should you pause your career to pursue meeting a man?
I don't think you should pause your career for anybody. I mean, at this point, I think what happens is if you have a serious relationship with somebody and you find your career is interfering with that, then I might pull back on the career issue, especially if you have to travel a lot. That doesn't work well when you're a couple. But up until the point that you really made a decision and you're really with somebody exclusively and decided to go to the next step, you're a freelance agent. You just got to keep moving. But it is hard to juggle careers, especially two high-powered careers.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like where it gets tricky is like the time that you set aside for both and like deciding when to prioritize one over another.
I think the relationship always has to come first.
Interesting.
Once the relationship is formulated, not when you're just talking about a fourth date.
No, of course. Millie, why are you squeaking?
She's playing with that toy.
Oh, hello, dog.
Hi, sweetie. Yeah.
Okay, dog. Okay. Look who it is. We have a podcast guest.
What has she got?
I'm definitely keeping this in. Any advice for entering your 40s single?
Your 40 single is the same as if you're in 30 single or 20 single. Put your best foot forward. Go out with a smile. Keep an open mind. Not everybody is going to tickle your fancy the first second you meet them. And, give people a chance. Just, go out and enjoy yourself. Don't worry about the future. Just worry about each day as it comes.
Okay, dating someone who's lovely and sweet but boring and have nothing to talk about.
Well, lovely and sweet is definitely a good thing. Boring is not good. But you know what? You develop things together to talk about. I mean, this is something that other
I
people
complain about all the
I
time.
know, but so is I used to do it too when I was single, and I remember my mom saying, stop being so ridiculous. You develop a relationship together, so you have to do something that you both like to do and talk about it afterwards. You have
But I
to talk
think with-
about somebody is not going to be. Who would you say, Dick Cavett on a date? They're just
Who
not.
is that?
Some people are not as talkative or interesting, so you have to make up a story yourselves that are about things that you like to do together. And if
I
you
will
can't
say though,
have-
if you're bored, like that's probably not a great sign. Like you're not going to be bored if you like someone.
Well, that's not true. You're bored because you're bored with yourself too. So sometimes you can't get out of your own way. Stop. Nobody is supposed to fill a gap in your life to make you more interesting. You have to be interesting on your own, and that partner, whoever, whether it be a man or a woman, has to also bring something to the table. And then you develop a life yourselves together. Interesting things that you might like to talk about, a wine, or you want to talk about a pizza place, or you want to talk about an art show, or you want to talk about a basketball game. And you develop a group of stories that you two have made together. And then you have things to talk about. No one's going to have. I mean, you're not running the Department of Justice or the Secret Service.
Yeah,
the
but
two
there are
of you.
people who just like, yeah, everything's good, and they're not like opening up or sharing things.
Well, some
or,
people can't share. I'm
Well,
married
then-
to somebody that doesn't share. So it's just what it is. You have to, you either like them for what they are because they have other attributes, or it doesn't work for you.
yeah.
And I really believe that each person has to bring something to the relationship, and then you form something together as a couple.
Okay, why is it so difficult to find serious love in an age of hookups?
Well, because I don't think anybody should be, because a hookup is basically a one-night stand or a two-night stand, and that isn't a relationship. So if you're going in with that kind of desire, that you're looking for physical stimulation and physical satisfaction, that does not make a relationship. So what, in my opinion, and what many people who are professionals in the business say, you should not have the hookup first. The hookup should come much later in a relationship once you've developed something together that is meaningful. And
Yeah.
then the sexual part comes in. If the whole thing is about sex, it really isn't a relationship. It's just a sexual fling.
Yeah, I think the issue is like even if you're going in with the intention of finding serious love, like it sounds like the person writing this question is, it's possible that the person on the other end
Doesn't
is
take you seriously because they figure you're only in it really
not
for-
you, like maybe with other people, or like that's what they have experienced or whatever. Like I think the question is not about like how can I find serious love. It's like they want serious love, and the people they've encountered seem like they're all about casual.
Well, if you want serious love, don't have a hookup.
So what does that mean?
That means you don't have sex with somebody on the first or second or third date. And if that's what they want,
Right,
then they
but
are
I-
eliminated from your repertoire.
Yeah, but I
That's
think
it.
what happens, even if you have sex on the 10th date, then you can be in that phase of being in a casual relationship for a really long time. Like that's what happens now. So,
Well, it depends on the person. It doesn't always happen.
no, of
People
course
can
it doesn't
fall-
happen, but that's the culture of today's dating.
Well, if that's
So
the
I think
culture
that's
of
why they're
today's-
asking if that's the culture of today's dating, then how do you kind of break out of that?
that you don't date somebody who's acting like that. If somebody who you're in a relationship with, that you're going out with, and that you're eventually having a sexual relationship, doesn't want to have something permanent and go to the next level of seriousness, I would say goodbye and good luck.
And this is sort of, I guess, going into the larger dating topic of if the definition of commitment has changed over time. And why do you think that is?
I don't think it has changed. I think that just people are not finding the right fit for them. If there are people who still want a commitment, who still want to get engaged, who still want to get married and do it within a timely time. If somebody's together for 4 or 5 years when they're mature adults, not when they're in their early 20s, but when they're in their 30s or late 20s, if they're not looking to go the next step and get married or move in together and think about a family. If that's not where they're going, and you want that. Now, it has to be a two-way street. If one person wants that and the other person doesn't, then you have to get out of that relationship, as sad as it might be, because it's not going to work. I mean, this is the problem that I see with the generation today, because people spend so much time together, they end up living together before they get married for a serious length of time, that, I think that is wrong. I think you have to have, I'm going to live with you for 3-4 months, we'll get engaged, and then get married. If it's longer than that, I think it's an endless situation, unless you're still in school. I mean, there are circumstances that, I'm not talking about. But when two people are both professionals and working in the workforce today, they pretty much know that 6 months is a long time to be in a live-in arrangement. You don't need longer than that. There's nothing you're going to know about that person that you're going to find out in the 7th or 8th month. So either you like each other and you want to make a lifelong commitment, or you just say, you know what, I want something different than you want. That would be my advice.
Yeah, because I think that's where it gets complicated, because I hear all the time people say, like, we do like each other, like, but
not enough.
It doesn't move forward, kind of thing.
Well, then they don't like each other enough. And they're always looking, because of the dating apps and all this nonsense of meeting so many people here and not committing themselves really to the first or second or third person you really find you're attracted to.
So
it's too much. It's like a candy store. You can't resist all the other choices. And you've got to eventually say, nope, I'm going to stick with one person, and that's it. And make a commitment. And if you can't make that commitment, then there's no point in staying together.
Besides texting and social media, what do you think has influenced this lack of commitment in our generation?
Well, I think that's the two driving forces, because before that, you didn't have all this, looking at 1,000 choices or texting all the time to somebody. You had to pick up the phone and make a commitment, make a date. You didn't have all these other tools at your disposal. And sometimes it's a wonderful thing, because, you do meet more
someone,
people,
and
your field widens. But at some point, you have to stop playing it. I mean, it really is a game. And at some point, you have to say, you know what, I'm tired of this. It might not be the love of your life that you thought when you were 20, but by the time you're 30, you realize that love isn't going to come, because there is no such thing as that particular kind of love. You have to find someone you're comfortable with, that you can make a future with, that you can raise a family with, who has common outlooks and points of view.
Right. And we know, I've talked about, I'm romantic, and I idealize, dating back in the day,
but back in the day, it wasn't like that.
I was going to say, what do you think the misconceptions are about the 50s and 60s?
After a couple of months of dating, if somebody didn't give you a ring, you said goodbye. I mean, there wasn't a conversation that you lasted years with somebody, or that you lasted 6 months even.
So what kind of issues could you have then?
Well, the issues that you could have is that you got married and sexually you weren't that you didn't do well together, which was very common, especially for women, because they didn't have the sexual experience that most young women today have. So, you got married blind, and many times you were a virgin or whatever, and many times the men were virgins. They hadn't been sleeping around for 5 or 6 or 10 years. That wasn't part of the social norm at that time. But I think what happens now is it's too much of a conversation, too many choices, and you finally have to say, no, this is what I'm going to do. I have a plan. I want to get married. I want to have children. So therefore, I have to look for somebody who's going to fit the bill.
But not only that
partner.
just fits the bill. That's where also, at least personally, I feel like the issue is, it's like you can find 1,000 people who could fit that.
You can find
well, you're right. It's
people.
actually really hard, because so many people are not into commitment or
Correct.
in the right place.
It's that easy.
But once you find people who are, you also have to gel with them. It can't just be like, we both want relationships perfect.
No, nothing is perfect, but I think the gelling is something you create together. Chemistry comes from being together and developing a relationship. You do not have two stars crossing each other and instantly knock each other out. that's nonsense. That's Hollywood. You have to say, oh, he's adorable, he's cute, she's cute, and say, I would like to meet her and know a little bit more about her. And once you get into somebody, if you like their personality, which is really foremost the thing, you like their personality. Do they come with too much baggage? If they come with a lot of baggage, you're not going to fix their baggage. So, that's an issue, which you have more now than you had in the 50s or the 60s.
Yeah, actually, that's so interesting. So I was talking to one of my girlfriends the other day about a thing she was going through. And we were like, why is it that like so many of the men we've encountered, and not to blame this on men, I'm sure maybe some women too, whatever, but like have such issues and such baggage? Like were men always so complicated?
I think everybody is always complicated, but we were so young we didn't realize that these were issues. I think so. The issues became more prevalent after you got married. You saw the issues.
Oh, but now that we're like later in life.
Now you're later in life, so you basically carry out a relationship much longer. I mean, nobody in the 50s and 60s was engaged for a year. I mean, nobody would do that. Who cared if the wedding place wasn't available? You'd get married somewhere else.
Like, there's all these guys now, they're like gaslighting and manipulative in whatever ways, and it's like
that's the game you're playing now, and that's all been brought about through social media, and also the fact that these guys, the girls, are very, very liberal with their personal, their physical. What would you say?
So if he's having sex with a lot of other people, like there's no reason for him to like put in the work.
Why should he?
Right.
Why should he do that? That's why.
Because he likes you.
No, I don't. I think if a man is going around to many different places and getting sex from several different women, there is no reason for him to make a commitment to one of them. And I think the same with women. It's the same thing. Today's world is very much the same. If women are enjoying several different partners, then they're not ready to commit to one. So then they're just not ready. And those are the people you don't want to have a personal relationship with, that you think it's going to turn into something serious, because they're not ready for it. They're not mature enough in their own way, and they can't.
It's like, how can
handle
you
it.
not be mature at 35?
Because they've either been pampered by their parents, or they've just had girls that pamper them and don't make them live up to being a grown-up adult. It's all about growing up and taking on responsibility. If you're not ready to take on responsibility of taking care of a home, of providing a living, of taking care of family and children eventually, then you're not ready for a relationship. I mean, it's not all about dressing up and going to showers and weddings. It's about making a life, getting up in the morning, making breakfast, going to your job, coming home. Somebody's got to make dinner. Somebody's got to make the beds. I mean, there's a realistic way of life. This is not all about, it's not instantly done
I just
for
like,
you.
not that it's like my business, because like I'm going to live my life, but I don't get people who are like, yeah, I'm just not going to have any responsibilities.
Well, maybe if they marry somebody who is either very, very rich, that has people take care of them. I don't know anybody that has that. I don't know one person, and I'm married a long time, that would ever think that way, because that's not realistic. I mean, dinner has to be put on the table. Whether the man is making it, the woman is making it, somebody's got to put
Or
dinner
those
on
kind
the
of
table.
people just like don't get married.
Or those kind of people have to stay single.
Yeah.
They have to stay single because they're not ready to be responsible.
Right. What experiences do you think are important to have on your own before committing to a lifelong relationship?
Well, you and I are going to have different ideas. I think we have to, first of all, anybody who's over a certain age in today's world has had some kind of physical attracted relationships with other people. They've had some type of premarital experience. So I think that area, when you're getting into a relationship, you're a little more equipped than the girl who was marrying in the 50s and the 60s who had no real experience.
Yeah.
Maybe that was good because she had no expectation. But, that's a different thing. I think that out of the way, somebody has to be ready to take on responsibilities of how a relationship should be. In other words, Saturday night, there's no conversation. We're together. We're doing things.
So it's more just like practicing all of these like relationship things until you're like good enough to do your lifelong commitment.
Or sow your oats. While
Right,
you're young.
right.
That's really the thing. Go sow your oats.
Make
Go have a
mistakes.
good time. Go run around. Do whatever you want.
But, like,
go skip off to Europe
Until
if you want
you're
for a weekend.
when?
Well, everybody's different. If it would be me, I would do it earlier than rather than later. I mean, to me, there's no reason pushing it off. But everybody has to come to that realization at a certain time. And everybody also wants a different thing. Some people want to have an absolute career before they settle down. Other people, especially women. But today, you've got women who are doctors, lawyers, scientists, influencers.
Yeah.
They all have careers and they manage to have a family.
Yeah.
And very often are better at it because they know how to manage their time. I mean, I have doctor friends who have 2 and 3 children, and they manage to be fabulous doctors, wonderful wives, and fairly good parents.
Yeah.
Their parents, the children learn how to be a little more independent, I think, when a parent has a full-time career. I think that's the big
there's
difference.
pros and cons. You're right, because like the pros, if you're not working, is you can be with your kid 24/7,
Right.
but the con is that kid might end up very dependent on
Well, not
you.
only that, but the child eventually leaves home, and then you've got nothing to do.
True, that
so
too.
unless they have a grandchild like you,
Who is
makes a
27
career.
and still
That
here.
makes a career for her grandma.
Yeah. Okay, the dating rule that we did this week, Rule 25, has to do kind of with our dating topic. So it was don't sleep with them on the first date unless you don't care if it turns into a relationship.
And I think that's pretty, correct. In this day and age, unless you've had so much to drink that you don't know what you're doing, why would you sleep with somebody on the first date? I mean,
Yeah.
it just doesn't make
I
any
think
sense.
maybe when you're like 22, but
Yeah.
actually, I still have some friends. It's always very surprising though.
Really? Well, I don't
Yeah.
know. I think it's a bad move. It's a bad move for older people who are looking for things. I mean, you know what? Why give it away so quickly?
Yeah.
Hold off a little bit. Be a little more secretive and a little more select in who you choose to go to bed with.
So when we posted that video, somebody commented something which is like true, which they said, I would say, unless you're so secure in yourself that if he ghosts you afterward, you will be okay and it won't make you feel used or less than.
Well, she's being very mature in thinking about it, but I think if you've gone to bed with somebody on the first date and then they don't respond the next day or the next day or two, you're still hurt.
Yeah, no
I don't
matter
care
how secure
mature.
you are.
Exactly.
That's true.
I mean, grow up. There's no way that unless you're so drunk you don't know you did it.
Or like you had zero feelings for this person.
Exactly, and it was just a nice
Right.
little
But no matter what, like
a nightcap.
you can be very secure in yourself and still
be hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's still a physical relationship. It's still more than eating a slice of pizza. Let's not make,
Yeah. Well, you're like releasing hormones that like bond you to
Exactly.
someone. So obviously you're going to
Exactly.
feel like invested.
Exactly.
Oh, do you have any headlines of the week?
Well, the big headline of this week, for all those who know, is that Russia almost had a revolution on Saturday, which was really a scary moment for everybody who was, either watching CNN or watching one of the other news channels, and including all the newscasters. Nobody knew what was happening. I think for the most part, it was fortunate that he didn't go all the way into Moscow. I think we don't need any more upheavals in that part of the world. But it is a very scary moment in time because don't forget these people do have nuclear weapons. And I'm not so sure Putin is dealing with a full deck. But probably nobody else we know is dealing with a full deck either. So, but thank heavens that passed and he's now in exile someplace and probably will never be heard from again. That was the big headline of the week.
Yeah, and I feel like Titanic coming to
that was so sad. That was a
resolution.
terrible thing. The conclusion where those wonderful people all lost their lives. The 5 people on board that the Immersible. But that was something that. They were all adventurers. They all knew the danger. However, I think there should be actually an investigation when they get most of the parts together and really figure out, could this have been avoided with more testing before the machine went down to that depth?
Yeah, for me, it's more interesting to think about like space tourism and all of these things that are like starting to happen because it's not just like scientists that are going down to explore.
No, but it's mostly people who know the risk. I mean, all
that's true. It's like bungee
board,
jumping or something, or
Right.
jumping skydiving. Like the risks.
And this was definitely a risk. They all signed off on that. We're not saying that, but I think there are going to be some conclusions that this was not taken care of as properly as it should have been.
Yeah. Well, did you see that like Microsoft Yeah, Microsoft's like stocked it because of like the Xbox controller.
Well, he was there. That was very scary. The
Yeah.
guy who was the captain was using a game thing to
Yeah, like an
to guide
Xbox
it.
controller as the.
Well, that I think is that to me is what's scary.
Yeah, that's weird. For our 1950s movie of the week, we picked out a cute rom-com for you all, Desk Set from 1957. And it was Katharine Hepburn and
Spencer Tracy.
no, Gig Young and Spencer Tracy.
Spencer
Oh, yeah,
Tracy
'cause-
was the love of her
right,
life.
they did
She
everything
did all those movies
together.
together.
I watched that Netflix doc. I forgot if we talked about that or not, about her.
It was wonderful, but it was really
It's
true.
like depressing.
Well, it was very sad because in those days he wouldn't get divorced because he was a very devout Catholic. He wouldn't
Right.
divorce his wife, but he lived with her and everybody knew it for over 30 years, and they were a great love affair.
Yeah.
And he was a very troubled soul.
Yep. Okay, another great episode of Excuse My Grandma. Follow us, Excuse My Grandma, on social media, and we will see you soon.